It is macro season. It is starting. I am so excited. I want to give you a couple of tips that are mostly field macro tips to make your macro photography better. So let's get started. I have the OM3, the 90mm macro, the FL700 and the AK diffuser. Perfect team to go and look for bugs. If you watch my Wednesday video, you know that I've been looking for bugs all around the house. One thing that is important for macro photography is obviously knowing your camera, knowing about composition. I made a video for you. It's right here. It's my 5 tips, the 5 mistakes not to make when you're doing macro photography. This video was actually pretty well received, so I'm glad it's helping a lot of people. I know that someone made an article about this video, so thank you so much. Feel free to share it with anybody who might need a couple of tips to improve their macro photography. But this video was mostly about a craft, like photography craft, things that you need to pay attention to when you're creating your photo. I think when you are a macro photographer, you also need to pay attention to your field craft. Because if you don't have field craft with macro photography, well, you're probably not gonna get some good photo. So tip number 1, if you are a beginner and you're starting with macro photography, go early in the morning when the insects are going to be a little slower because it's cooler. If you go in the middle of the day, it's going to be harder to make great images because the bees are going to be buzzing around and all the insects are going to be very active. It's going to be so hard to find an insect that's not going to be moving, and it's going to be so hard for you to get the right focus. So tip number 1, early in the morning, try to find some insects that are not moving too much. Do not freeze insects. I know some people do that. Why? I mean, you're a nature photographer. Why do you have to freeze insect to make a photo? That's so cruel. I mean, really? I can't imagine doing that, so please don't do this. And just work on your fieldcraft. Now, another thing that is important, and if you go early, actually, you're not gonna have the sun blasting. And you will need to be able to see on your screen, if you're using the screen, or on the EV Finder, if your shot is in focus. If it's a bright day, middle of the day, it's going to be so hard for you to really see the back of your screen or even on your EV Finder. So that's why going early, it's usually better, especially if you're starting. I photograph insects all the time, but I've really been practicing a lot. So you will get frustrated, I think, if you do that in the middle of the day and then you really can't see much on your EV Finder or on your back screen. I like to use my back screen because I can see way more than on the EV Finder. So that's why there are a couple of tricks that you can do by making sure that you're orientating yourself with the sun and you're blocking that sun from your back screen. But again, going early it's nice because the sun is going to be lower and not as harsh, and so that's also going to make your color pop, because if you go in the middle of the day, that sun is going to tame those colors as well. So really, that tip about going early has 2 purposes. It's a double tip. Now, another tip is to know where to look for insects. Well, highly recommend railings, anything that's kind of like a white color or anything that is siding. Well, the insects are gonna love to just hang out on the siding of the house or on the railings. That's where I actually got some of my best photos. So if you're doing urban macro photography, that would be my tip. Now, obviously, if you go and find some flowers, if you have a garden, then you also find a lot of different insects. But for insects like flies and spiders, oh my God, siding and railings, so good. So don't hesitate to use your house to look for bugs. Also, you want to be aware of the type of plants that will attract different bugs. where can I find a monarch butterfly? Where can I find a Japanese beetle? Where can I find a weevil? So I highly recommend apps like iNaturalist to identify the bugs, but also know what type of plants they like, what type of environment. And also, I highly recommend journaling. So every time you're going out and you're finding a bug, just record where did you find it on, and that will also help you. Now, let's talk about getting close to the bugs, because unfortunately, macro photography, you're gonna have a very small working distance with your subject. You need to be very close to your subject. So, how do you do that? Patience, patience, patience. You don't rush towards your bug. Don't use a tripod. I don't recommend it. I'm handholding all my shots, and it works very well because I'm looking at different angles and I am approaching my bugs very, very slow. If I have to set up a tripod and then set up my camera and then try to get closer, acquire focus, it's going to be a pain, especially if you have the 60mm macro and you want to do a true macro photo at 1:1. Then you're going to have to put your camera at 1:1 and move your camera back and forth. Maybe if you have a focusing rail, that could work, but it's so much work and it's going to be so complicated. So fieldcraft, just learn how to move very slowly towards your subject so you don't scare them. If you find your subject near some food and flowers, they're probably going to be a little easier to photograph. I photograph a lot of wasps and bees in flowers. They're not busy. They haven't been very aggressive with me because I approach them very slow and my movements are very limited. I also try to lower my breathing as well. My goal is to be like a flower, not move much and move very slow. That will really improve your fieldcraft. Slowly approaching the bugs and making sure that you're not using big gestures. Those are my fieldcraft tips for macro photography. And if you want to have some extra tips, mistakes not to make, as I said, you can go back to my previous macro video. I hope that those tips will be useful for you as you are starting your macro season. I cannot wait to see what you will create. So if you are not a subscriber, well, it's never too late. Click on the subscribe button, hit the like and click on the bell so you know when my videos are coming out. Post a comment below. Tag me on Instagram. Let me know what you're photographing. It's always fun to see what everybody is doing and what insects are out there. And just keep on, inspiring each other. So I hope this video was useful and I will see you very soon. Until then, happy shooting. Au revoir.